Okay guys, welcome to section 6. You've made it all the way in intermediate filmmaking, and so you've come a long way. We've talked about a lot of different things, and so now we're going to end this kind of workshop talking about lighting, B-roll, and music. Those are all really important things, some elements that you're probably going to want to use when you get to the end of this section and you end up shooting your own documentary that you've been kind of working toward this whole time. So let's just kind of dive in there and talk about some things. First, regarding B-roll. It's really, really important that you shoot good B-roll and that you shoot plenty of it. What's going to happen is when you go into editing, you're going to have your initial interview. But without great B-roll to kind of put on top of that interview, a mind can wander when they're watching it. And the last thing you want is people to watch your documentary and get bored, right? So even if the story is really interesting and if the interview is going really well, if you don't have good B-roll to kind of layer over it, then it's going to be kind of difficult to keep their attention. And so we really want to encourage you to get B-roll. So our strategy when we shoot B-roll is we usually start with the subject. So whoever you're going to be interviewing, or if you're shooting a narrative film of some kind and you have a main actor, one of the great things to do is to get B-roll of them doing whatever it is that they do. So if their job is to walk around as they're looking at something, walk around with them, film them walking around, get close-ups of what they're doing with their hands, close-ups of what they touch. If they sit down, get interesting shots of them sitting doing their work or whatever they happen to be doing, but really think about the subject and just filming them in a real life situation. Just follow them around for a while and film different things. It's always good to have a bunch of B-roll of your subjects so that when you go into editing and you've got their interview going on, you can actually show them doing stuff while people are listening to them talk about whatever you've interviewed. So that's really important. Then after you get the subject B-roll, then try to get B-roll of the location or the surroundings. This could be coworkers establishing shots of the building that they're in, or maybe establishing shots of their home, different things like that. Establishing shots are really helpful when you kind of enter a scene and then you go out of a scene. And then it's really good to just get pictures of the room that they're in. You know, if you see some books that are interesting, or a model airplane that they have, or whatever it happens to be, anything that's interesting in the room around them, it's great to get B-roll of that as well. You can never have enough B-roll, just because anytime you have a lengthy interview, even if they're saying something really powerful, it really helps to have B-roll kind of help paint the picture in a more full way. So get a lot of B-roll, focus first on your subject and then on the area around the subject, whether that's a building or outside or whatever. So get a lot of B-roll, shoot a lot of shots, and usually when you're shooting, the last thing I'll say about it is most of our clips are about 10 seconds long. We don't get tons of hours of B-roll. We don't just set a camera there, hit record, and come back 30 minutes later. Usually when you're shooting B-roll for a narrative film or a documentary, most of the times that shot is only going to last 10 seconds or less. Usually ours are around 2 seconds, maybe, not very long. So make sure you get a bunch of shots, because once you use that shot, you're probably not going to use it again. So try to get a bunch of shots, make them 10 seconds or less, get your subject, and get the surrounding area. So those are two really important things talking about B-roll. I want to end with a little just commentary on music. Music is really important in a film, and as we stressed in basic filmmaking, music can really help with emotions. It can really help kind of add an atmosphere to the film, but it can be easily overdone and overused. So a couple things I'll say about music. First, you only want it to provide background noise. You don't really want music that's so overpowering that the people watching it only notice the music. You kind of want it subtle. You want it in the background, kind of as a background layer, almost as an ambient layer even. You don't want people to even realize that the music is on, and so maybe you say, "Do you notice the music?" And then, "Oh yeah, I like the music," and then they noticed it. But if it's so loud that that's the first thing they notice, it's too loud and it's distracting from their, it's going to be distracting to the people who are watching your story. They're going to miss out on some of the story because of the music. So music is one of those things where it can do a whole lot of good things, but if used incorrectly, it can do a whole lot of bad things. Another way you can use it incorrectly is you can choose the wrong music. Sometimes you can have a song and you really love the song. It might be great, but the moment you put it on your film, it can make it have a different attitude. It can make it more silly, or maybe too serious for a silly moment, or different things like that. So you really got to be selective when you choose your music. You got to take your time, listen to a lot of music, and then try to select music that really fits your film well. So all that to say, we just want to make sure that when you go to shoot your final documentary and you put your interviews and got your B-roll and all of that stuff ready to go, make sure that you select your music carefully. Lastly, when you're editing and you have your music, kind of get the music, put the music in your editing software, and then edit on top of it. Make sure that you've edited listening to the music, because sometimes the music might be going at a faster tempo than your cuts, and so your cuts are going to look awkward. Or maybe the music's going really slow, but you've got a lot of fast cuts, and then it'll look awkward. So make sure you check your cuts with your music as well. So as the last example, we've also included below our film Hammocking with Jordan to show you an idea of what happens when you take an interview and then you put good B-roll over it. You'll notice that in Jordan's film, it's not really a documentary film in the sense of it's got a story and we're trying to move you. It's more in the style of, well, here's just a historical record. It's an actual factual thing. There's not really any conflict in it. But we really wanted to get an idea of what we can do, showing you here's how we film an interview, here's some B-roll, notice how we're cutting it, and then notice the music, the way we put the music and the sound in it. So it's a short little film. Take a look at that, enjoy it, and then get about your own business, get to the section project, start filming your own documentary.